The 2025 Ford Mustang Mach-E Rally has a retuned MagneRide suspension. It sits an inch taller than the Mach-E GT and has Michelin cross-climate all-season snow-rated tires. I may call them something else in the video. Because of all of this, it doesn't get the same amount of range as the regular GT or the longer range models at just 265 miles. But in the real world, in our 70-mile-an-hour range test, how far will it actually go? Let's find out that, plus how quickly it charges now. All right, we are back for a 70 miles an hour EV range test, this time with the 2025 Ford Mustang Mach-E in the Rally trim. So the Rally trim is new for 2024, and it is 1 inch taller than a Mach-E GT. It has all the powertrain, though, of the Mach-E GT, so like 460 horsepower and all of that jazz. But it sits an inch higher. It comes standard with the MagneRide, which all GT models in 25 do. This is, however, tuned specifically for sort of soft roading, so two-track trails, rally courses, mud, stuff like that. It's set up quite different than a regular GT Mustang Mach-E. But it also comes with a set of pretty aggressive all-season tires. They do have the mountain on the side. They are Michelin, I believe, cross-contact 2s. So not the most energy-efficient tire by any stretch. But so we'll see sort of how this all works out. Now the EPA says that the car should be right around 50 or 256-ish miles of range. Right now I have it indicated 253. Purpose of this test is obviously to see sort of a worst-ish case scenario on how well the car does range-wise. So the way we do this test is we charge to 100% state of charge, we reset the trip computer, and we start heading down, basically, in this case, Interstate 8090, heading west. And we'll go roughly 50% of the battery's charge, and then we'll turn around and do the 50% back to where we'll end up at an EV charging station, or then I'll be set up perfectly to do a charge curve analysis from as low state of charge as possible to 100%. We graph that out. We'll provide the data at the end for that. We'll provide the actual real-world range at the end of this, and sort of all of that information. One additional sort of cool thing you can do here is this Mach-E has Blue Cruise, the latest version, so it supports automatic lane changing. It'll do it itself, which is great for traffic, though you do wonder sort of where to put your hands. But I digress. We are just getting started. So some other reasons for this test. Everybody says, oh, EV range is terrible, EV range, I can't go do road trips with it, and this and that. And we're sort of doing this along the lines to help prove that you can. No, it's not ideal for everyone all of the time, but, for, I think, a majority of drivers, an EV's probably fine. Another reason for doing this test is obviously to spend more time with Blue Cruise, which is awesome. And then third, sort of just to really show kind of a worst case scenario range-wise. The EPA estimated range is usually split between something like 55% city, 45% highway. And as you know, the faster you go, the less efficient any vehicle is, especially an EV. So we are going a little bit quicker than the peak sort of efficiency kind of standpoint. Now, that doesn't always mean that you're going to suffer huge efficiency drawbacks, though my expectations for this car aren't super duper high because there's a big old wang on the back. The inch taller ride height will, of course, mess with aero, and the tires are not eco-friendly tires at all whatsoever, like at all. So always like to occasionally I keep the phone display up because I'd like to know if the recording kind of just stops. So I was just quickly glancing to see what the error was. Oh, there's a firmware update available. Woo! As you can see, the car automatically lane changed itself, and it should automatically go back. Maybe its behavior on 3-lane roads is a little weird. On 2-lane, it will for sure go into the fast lane, it calls it the fast lane, and then it'll get out of the fast lane. It seems more comfortable with camping in the middle lane when you are on a 3-lane road. Anyways, so more about the car. For 2025, all of the Mustangs received a heat pump for its climate control system. That's the biggest change. They've redone the trims and things like that, but basically, heat pump is what you want. What I'd really like in this car is ventilated seats, because it is 90 degrees outside, and that's not an option on the Rally. They are on the GT, the premium, but for the special-ish seats for the Rally, it's not an option, not available. So that's kind of a bummer. But otherwise, yeah. How much is this thing? Let's consult the Monroney Mustang Mach-E. Total with delivery, $59,335. So just under 60 grand before tax and title and all of that jazz. Right now, as we're recording, Ford's no longer doing the employee pricing for everyone, but they're doing like a 000 thing. Car's made in Mexico, so it will not be, it'll be subjected to whatever the tariffs are this week, and so that will probably affect pricing. Though EVs, especially with the incentive going away at the end of September, the dealers and stuff are really trying to push the EV models that they have now, because EV sales will probably slow pretty significantly once the incentive goes bye-bye. I was accused in my last video, one of these, dissing on somebody's president because of this. Big Beautiful Bill kills the EV incentives, among other things, and gives more incentives to oil producing. So we'll subsidize oil and gasoline, but we won't subsidize electricity. It's weird. But I digress. About the car. This is probably my favorite version of the Mach-E. Just because the all-season tires are pretty robust. There is a rally sport mode on this, which allows you to slide around in the mud. I attended the first drive program. We went to Dirtfish. That was last year. Really kind of an excellent package there. I do like the stripes and the stickers and all of that. I don't like the particular color of this car. This is that new desert sand. I think on a hot hatchish looking, Subaru-ish looking thing, you should go with some bright colors. And Ford's done bright colors on their rally cars, so this kind of is not the bright color that I'm really looking forward to. So I wouldn't go with this one. I'd do a blue or a yellow or a green, depending on how bold I was that day when I bought it. But ride's super nice. 460 horsepower is plenty. Though the engineers still do a little work on initial torque. So like when you put your foot in immediately, it does a little bit of torque restraint, so it doesn't snap your head back as much as you think that it should. It's not a bad experience. I just think in some instances the car feels slower than it is, which is not ideal, I think. When you look at a car like the Ioniq 5N, which has a ton more power, and you can really feel it. Though, for what it's worth, that car is nearly, these days, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 more expensive. So it may not be, in sort of your price range. And that car isn't necessarily winter. Yeah, you could throw snow tires on it like any sensible person would, and it probably would be a hoot, but just something to consider. I think the biggest drawback on this car, other than the reduced range, is the 400 volt charging system. It'll peak, we'll show you during the test, but it'll peak somewhere a little bit above 150. Probably we'll see 160-ish on it for kilowatts. That's just, in 2025, that's on the low end of competitive. And with the F-150 Lightning that I recently did, it just takes, you spend a long time on a charger. which isn't fun if you're trying to do a road trip. And with a little bit reduced range, you're going to be DC fast charging more often on a road trip. So you should experience a little bit better range in the winter, though that'll probably be negated by the tires, just because there's now a heat pump on board to help with climate, and that significantly reduces the amount of energy required to warm the cabin during the winter. So heat pumps are pretty efficient in general. You should get them in your house too, but it's neither here nor there. As we entered this work zone, I had to briefly take over to kind of, it still kept the lane change going, but I had to put my hand back on the wheel, though it still allowed me to do this work zone perfectly fine. So there is that. But I'm not changing the format, but we're going to change it up a little bit here for this next this video that we're doing here, just to avoid the super duper long length. So what I'll do is I'll do a time lapse of the real boring bits where I'm not talking, and when it comes time to do really kind of important stuff, then I'll chime in and let you know. So let's do one of those now.
Well, when I woke up.
Just a quick update, we are entering some rain, so we'll see how Blue Cruise handles that. I realize I didn't explain super duper well the settings that I'm using for the car. So I set the climate control to a comfortable 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I kind of set that for all of the tests at that, not super duper cold, but also I'm not trying to be the absolute most eco-friendly. Like, I want to be comfortable. I think if you're going to drive a car over a long distance, you're probably going to want to be comfortable. I do, however, have the car in its whisper mode, which is the smoother acceleration steering. It says this is the best mode for slippery conditions. I'm not so concerned about that right now, but it also should be sort of the most efficient, which is kind of important. Like, you may drive the car in an eco mode or a comfort mode on a road trip to eke out range, but I don't think you're necessarily willing to sacrifice all sorts of comfort for that. And why 70 miles an hour? Well, that's the speed limit. So throughout this course, we will be doing that, which is important. I don't always like doing this when I know it's going to rain, because rain also can hurt efficiency. But as I've said several times on previous ones of these videos, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you want. Basically, we get a week with the car and have to plan around sort of everything else to devote, nearly a whole day to one of these. So, but it seems to be handling the rain-ish okay. It's not super heavy. I mean, it's kind of heavy, but it can still see the lines. Hasn't asked me to take over with steering. It can detect the vehicle in front of me, so all is well.
She was looking at me. She told me I've been cheating on her in her dream. Lord, it wasn't a thing I could do or say to change her mind in any way. She told me that things was gonna change if I wanted her. I couldn't stay the same, so I stopped going out on Friday nights. I stopped drinking with the boys. Yeah, everything she asked I left in the past, just to try to bring her joy. For the record, it can't be understated, all I've been domesticated. She told me to top off her Jeep, the one I bought her when I sold my old GT. And I bumped in to my good friend. And he asked me where the hell had I been. So I told him what she told me. If I didn't change, she was gonna leave. So I stopped going down on Friday nights. I stopped drinking with the boys. Everything she asked, I left in the past, just to try to bring her joy. For the record, it can't be understated.
We are almost an hour into this drive, 57 minutes and 41 seconds. We are averaging 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which isn't great, but it is pretty much what I expect. I did misspeak earlier when I said 256 miles of range. I must be dyslexic. It's 265 miles of EPA-rated range. How big's the battery pack? I don't know. Large, but not super large. I don't know. Doesn't say on the Monroney. It should say. But, you know, whatever. Monroney's, what are those? Anywho, a couple things, though, that I should note. For 2014, or sorry, not 2014, gosh, 2024, the Mach-E GT got an upgraded front motor. It's supposed to help with some of the performance. I know that very early on, when I first tested a Mach-E GT, we took it to a drag strip, and the first eighth of a mile was excellent. What I really expected for the car, performance, things like that. The second eighth, it really lost a lot of oomph. I was the only one that thought that. Allegedly, some of those concerns have been alleviated. I still don't think it feels as quick as it should feel past, let's say, 50 miles an hour when your foot's in it, 60 miles an hour when your foot's in it. But it's also a little deceptive because, like, 460 horsepower is a lot. It's just when you drive a lot of EVs, 460 horsepower doesn't necessarily feel like a lot. Compared to a normal gas-powered car, it is incredibly quick. Really, you're only going to get skunked by other high-performance EVs. If you were to go to a drag strip, and you'd probably still do okay, depending on what the high-performance EV was that lined up next to you. So yeah. Gosh, Blue Cruise has been pretty solid. Handled the work zone pretty well, handled the rain pretty well, doing the automatic lane changes and stuff pretty well. But we're an hour into it. We're at 74% state of charge. So, yeah, another hour yet before I turn around, I guess. Yeah, well, we'll see. Onwards and upwards as we approach the state line.
I'm domesticated. But when I got home, she sat me down, said she wasn't happy and she wanted out. Everything about the man she once loved is long gone, baby, and it's all because...
About to enter another work zone. Woo, work zones. Who loves work zones? When you live in the Midwest, Great Lakes region, that's what you get. Work zones in the summer. Because you can't do anything in the winter, supposedly, allegedly. Though we have just crossed state line into Indiana, where the speed limit drives even slower for the toll roads through work zones. Now, the question is anybody working? Last time I went through here was July 5th, so nobody was working. Today, at least on the toll roads in Ohio, somebody was working. So that's a positive that I will take. But we should be going through a toll plaza here in a moment, after we do some weird kind of a contraflow, kind of not a contraflow. I don't know what it is. Lane change, lane shift, really weird sharp corner. Lovely. just lovely. Nobody working though, so there's that. Anywho, so far, yeah, digging the experience. I know it's only been about 10 minutes or so since the last check-in, but figure we might as well chat as we cross the state line. 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. We've gone roughly 77 miles so far. 170 miles indicated left, 69% state of charge. So, progress. We enter that cone zone. Woo! No more barrels for a few minutes, and then back to barrels, probably, because, yeah. What else? The car is pretty quiet. Can't complain too much about that. Not really any real, little bit of wind noise, I guess, coming from the mirrors and from up front. I've been in quieter EVs, not gonna lie, but it's still on the quieter side of EVs that I've been in. And the tires, the all seasons, are not really that loud at all. And on fresh pavement, it's almost whisper quiet in here, which is nice. One thing I definitely don't hear is the big old whang in the back. Of course, I'm not in the back seat, so maybe you can hear some wind rushing back there, but I'm assuming there is some functionality to it, though I doubt much. It's kind of it's probably more of an aesthetic thing than anything else, but it does fit the part. And I do think that proportionally, with the wing added, I think the car actually in profile looks good proportionally, which I wasn't always quite so sure about in the past. So that's nice it's kind of nice to see. I think it's part of the reason why I like this car and this trim. Though I did not expect the traffic to come to a complete stop. We're one lane, but I guess that's also halt. So, woo, let's sit in traffic for a while. Who likes sitting in traffic?
I stopped going out on Friday nights. I stopped drinking with the boys. Everything she asked, I left in the past, just to try to bring her joy.
Well, that was interesting. Apparently my gimbal had some difficulty with the work zone, so hopefully I have it mounted a little bit better. And we're going to pick up sort of a few minutes after where we left off. So let's go see if we can get back out onto the highway. The highway. Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? Found this lovely little carpool parking lots. So hopefully I didn't have to go too far off. This particular intersection is very weird because it is a highway, a interstate combining with an interstate, and that's no fun because then you've got to go to like exits to exits to exits. It's not easy, super easy to churn around. So, woo. But we are attempting to do that. Let's do a little sit rep here. Trip 1. We're an hour and 33 minutes into our drive. We've only gone 88 miles. Yikes. Miles per kilowatt hour. It's not showing anything right now, which is a little weird / suspect. But hey, what are you gonna do? Oh, there it is. It's back. It's back. Back out onto the highway and then continue the trek westward. We're at 64% state of charge. 158 miles are indicated left. So we're not obviously halfway there yet, but The one, I guess, nice thing about doing some of this as a time lapse is I will be able to listen to some tunes. Can't listen to tunes normally when you do this, when you record all of it onto YouTube, because then you'll get demonetized. I'm not monetized yet, but, you know, don't really want to have a content strike even before that. So, anyways, back onto the highway. Woo!
It can't be understated. Lord, I've been domesticated. Lord, I've been domesticated. All I do is stay at home all damn day.
We got time.
We have churned around and are heading back. We have 116 miles of claimed range left in the car, 48% state of charge. We have gone 128 miles, so the DC charger on the way back was actually a little bit closer. I did put the destination in the navigation and it said that I can't make it. And then I had to remove the charging stops and whatever. It says I can't make it, but it has me getting off the turnpike or the toll road. Now, I think that may be due to just the incredibly slow traffic that we're going to run into. But I'm not going to get off the expressway. That should help me, in some ways, help save range. And then we'll kind of assess the situation once we're back into Ohio, because I don't really trust the navigation, and when it updated the route, like it just, I didn't trust the data that it was showing. So we'll wait until we're back into Ohio and then check out the situation. So unless something weird happens before then, you'll hear from me then. More montage!
Let me know.
we're not quite in Ohio yet. Man, that work zone really did probably kill my average speed / whatever quite a bit. Currently, though, I have a 38% state of charge. I have 91 miles left in the battery pack, according to the onboard computer, and it is 91 miles to the charging station. So, maybe. So far, so good. That work zone did up our efficiency, though. We have 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour as we come up on hour 3 of this journey, 91. So we'll see. I'll check back in as we get a little bit closer and bring you to the end of this adventure / challenge / test.
Slowly. We got time.
I'll be saved by rock and roll. You can take my money, steal my car and sell my clothes. You can take the shoes I'm in, go on and take everything. You can have about everything I own. Just leave that old piano, chair, so I can sit down there and play when I'm old. Take all these things I know, even take the telephone. I heard it said so long ago. Well, I'll be saved by rock and roll. Well, I'll be playing in that band. I'll be praying on our knees, we'll bow our heads and raise our hands. It'll shake us by our soul and praise that rock and roll. You can have my home and have the yard. Just leave my one guitar and leave me here, and I can play until the day turns dark. Take all the tea.
All right, we are back. We have 8% state of charge. We have 20 miles left in the battery, 13 miles to the charger, so we will make it with presumably plenty of range to spare. I considered going to a slightly farther away charger. It's Electrify America, which I don't trust at all. but it would put me closer to 0 miles. But it looks like it's going to rain, and the Flying J that I'm going to is canopied, so the camera gear and stuff won't get wet. Besides, having 6-7 miles left of range isn't particularly bad. It might be 1 or 2% state of charge, so not as low as I would like to be, but also like doable, because we're probably going to be on the charger for a little while. So some thoughts. Well, that work zone definitely improved my range situation. I was 2 miles short, and now I'm like 6 or 7 miles over, so that probably messed with my average time. I am at 4 hours and 15 minutes of driving, 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour, and I've gone 235.2 miles so far. According to the breakdown, 5% of my total energy has gone to climate usage, 92% to driving, 3% to accessories, and 0% to the exterior temperature. I'm assuming exterior temperature would be like if it's cold and not hot, because I'm using climate, of course. The 3% accessories seems a little high. I really wasn't listening to the radio all that loud. Speaking of the radio, I've been using Sirius XM this week more than I have in a long time, and man, that compressed audio sounds terrible. I really don't understand why it sounds so bad. I mean, I do know why it sounds so bad, because they compress the heck out of it to add channels, but it really doesn't sound good at all. The car, yeah. So as a highway cruiser, it's pretty comfortable. These seats aren't too bad. Maybe a little bit sore of a butt, maybe a little bit. Though it does have lumbar, which I was able to mess around with, which has definitely helped. Actual performance, I mean, it's highway cruising, like there's not much to it. Now, like I said, I kind of wish maybe it had a little bit more power or a little bit more sensation of power. Would it stop me from buying it? No, I mean, it's still a decent amount of horsepower, so, like, and I think it really does look the business. And having, like I said, having been to Dirtfish and driven it there in the rain and the cold and in the mud, like it's really a lot of fun. This is probably an excellent all-season EV, and especially in places like where like the seasons really happen. You know, maybe a perfect like Michigan or an up north Michigan kind of car. The addition of the heat pump should help with range, obviously, for things like that. And the softer sprung suspension for the Rally, combined with the softer MagneRide magneto-rheological setup, makes it a pretty solid everyday car. Kind of like it a lot. Blue Cruise is also, like, excellent. It's definitely on par, or close to being on par with what Super Cruise is now. Super Cruise you can tow with. I don't think you can still tow with Blue Cruise, but in a Mach-E doesn't really matter all that much. Some of the regular Mach-E criticisms still kind of stick around. A friend of mine laments that you can't really get a factory tow hook with it, not because you want to tow with it, but for holding a bike rack. So that's kind of annoying, I guess. But you know, decent front and rear storage, decent interior cabin space. No sunroof on the Rally gets you more headroom, which is always an appreciated thing, for sure. And you know, it just overall not too shabby. I do wish there was an AC plug in the back. There isn't. I was looking for one earlier for something I would have liked to plug in and couldn't. I think that should be default options these days, so not seeing that's a real kind of big bummer. Don't like that the 25s don't have the NACS connector. They announced NACS last year before. Other OEMs have cars going on sale now with the NACS. But mainly, I mean, I think really the biggest drawback, well, one other small drawback, instrument cluster is kind of hard to see. The steering wheel blocks part of the corner, so you can see the important information, but sometimes you kind of got to duck your head. And compared to the Lighten that I had last week, this has a much better sensitivity on knowing my hands on the steering wheel. So I didn't have any weird kind of issues with it not picking up my hands. So that's nice. Big drawback, though, is the 400 volt architecture. yes, it saves some money there, but I would really like to see better DC fast charging. 200 kilowatts really kind of needs to be the thing. And I'm not actually looking forward to the amount of time that I'm going to sit on a charger here in a little bit to do the charge curve analysis. It's not going to be as bad as the Lightning in terms of time, but that was a 10 to 80% in 58 minutes. I sure hope this is quicker than that. Also, here's hoping that nobody's using the other side of the balanced charger that I get to, because that could slightly mess with the results, which, it's the thing of using public chargers, but, infotainment, it works decent. Menus are a little slow to respond. I think there are situations where it should be more responsive. I mean, a lot of these things would be improved with a second generation or with a significant refresh. I understand that the 24 model was a refresh. Like, I understand that from an intellectual standpoint. I also understand that adding the heat pumps in 25 and the ventilated seats on the premium is nice, like, especially the heat pump edition. Like, those you could argue are refreshes, but they're really, really light touch refreshes, extremely light touch refreshes. And the car, it's time. The problem is that while I would buy this car if I found it on a good deal, new, like, I don't do a lot of DC fast charging necessarily, but like, the problem is I really don't know what Ford is doing with its EVs. I keep seeing 2027, the Skunk Works truck. Ooh, like, okay, cool. It better be cool, but like, I haven't seen a lot of real advancement. Ford seemed to really just like slam on the brakes with EV development. And yes, the timetable is still 27 for Skunk Works and another project, but like, they killed the 3-row Explorer. Ford blew Oval City. I mean, I have a friend that's a supplier that supplies them, and they're not too optimistic about that even opening at this point. I mean, I'm sure it will. Like, I'm not going to say it's not going to open at all, but like, people are starting to get kind of concerned, like, what's going on here? And all of that's kind of rightfully so. Like, we just don't know what's going on. This year, Ford has recalled more vehicles in the first 6 months than any other automaker has ever in the first 6 months of the year. They've broke the record for recalls, and they're catching GM for all-time total number of recalls, which isn't necessarily something you want to do. So where are we at? What are we doing? Like, how's this, like, what's the dilly? And yeah, what is the dilly? I don't know. So this car really, like, when's it gonna? A NACS connector would come with an electrical system refresh. It should, anyways. It shouldn't be actually that difficult to just swap the connector out. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but like, it shouldn't be too terribly difficult. But it requires money and investment, and I don't know if Ford is currently doing that. So, as for the price, $60,000, I would skip the $600. Well, I would skip the, what is it? I think $500 for the level 2 charging cord that'll do level 1, level 2. Skip that. You get a free charger install when you buy the car through the Blue Oval Promise. Just do that. I would spring the $200 though for the NACS adapter. Not strictly necessary, but you're not going to find it really any cheaper from a third party online, and it's allows you to access Tesla superchargers or Iona stations that are, if you have an NACS opening, things like that. So yeah, I'd probably spend the $200 there. It's not any more expensive that way. If you do need a backup kind of level 2 cable, you can get one cheaper than what Ford will sell you on the internet. As for other options, I don't know. Like I said, colors, it's okay. But I like the white wheels. I think I would just do a different color. I'd do something bright, I think. You can get the wheels in black. Maybe that's your thing. Brake dust shows up real easy on these white wheels, though. So there is that. Maybe to keep that in mind. But overall, I like it. Like I said, I like how it looks. I like how it drives. Wish it had maybe a little bit more performance, but in the low mu, snow, gravel, dirt, sand situations, this thing is a riot. And that's really kind of what a car like this is supposed to be. So yeah, 4% state of charge. We're 2 miles away, 10 miles indicated left. We just keep gaining range. Like the car's just finding range. Places who knows. May do one kind of loop up and exit back just to kind of, again, keep that average speed a little bit higher for a little bit longer, and also get the range down a little bit further, because I'd like to be at less than 4% state of charge. I'd like to be like 3 or 2, just to get a kind of a better idea of what all needs to happen, what all's done and needs done. So let's go through this toll booth. Boop boop. Easy pass accepted. I'm actually gonna go left here, I think. And maybe that's how I'll loop around, then going north. No, I'm gonna go north. Change my mind. Captain's prerogative, right? The car is limiting performance already. It looks like it's giving me about 3/4, about 75% total power. So it's actually limiting a little bit earlier than what that Ford Lightning did under similar situations. I just 9 miles. I'm less than a mile. It's just this exit ramp here, so I'm gonna skip this and go up one, and then loop back, and then that'll be. I think then that'll be it. Just trying to do right by these tests as much as I can. What else? Looks like it's definitely going to rain. Woo. It's been so hot though. 95 degrees right now. So the DC fast charging test will be done at a 95, which is a lot. Yeah. What else is going on? It's almost the end of July. We saw Subaru debut the Uncharted, which is a CHR. So now the Toyota CHR is the Uncharted. The Subaru Solterra is the new BZ, and the Trail Seeker is the BZ. BZ Unlimited, BZ Outland, BZ, I forget what the big, whatever, it's BZ Outland, I believe. So yeah, so there is that. It's kind of the big-ish news. Really no other EV or electrification news right now. Kind of just all waiting, tariff situation, seeing how that kind of sorts out. Supposedly some sort of a deal has been done with Japan and the European Union just this morning, saying that there's some sort of deal that's been done. Cool. Still is going to mean increased prices. I mean, that's ultimately the thing, is cars are going to be more expensive. Though Ford did just recently announce that they've got a big LFP project that they're continuing to work on, which should help bring in some affordable domestic-made EVs. I mean, if we can build LFPs, basically, if you can build LFP locally or domestically, that should be able to solve a lot of many EV affordability problems. The reason why, for instance, the Slate isn't slated to have LFP is because the sourcing of the battery material is in China, which hits with higher tariffs than going with full NMC. So an LFP option for Ford should help them lower prices, stuff like base Mach-E, base Lightning, and they are working to get the density up on LFP. So it's not like it's completely not a dense thing. Just, you know, kind of something else to keep in mind as we kind of go into this brave unknown of like what are EVs going to be like. Globally, it's still, you know, full speed ahead for a lot of these things. Yeah, like I said, I drove the new CLA recently in Copenhagen. I think it's going to be a good car. I think it's sharing charge port connectors, like it's doing a J plug for level 2 and then an AX for DC fast charging. Kind of like how the Leaf. I'm hearing inklings that Leafs are already slashing their production export targets due to the end of the tariffs, or not the end of the tariffs, the end of the tax credit. I'm not really sure how they didn't see the end of the tax credit coming. So I don't know how much that car is going to cost. First drive, I guess, is in September. I wasn't invited. But we should hopefully have pricing, you know, by then-ish, maybe. So we'll see. We will see. We're coming right up on 250 miles. So off of 265 with 5 left, 255, 265, 10 short. That's probably not too bad. We'll officially crunch all of the numbers, though, here towards the end of the video. And yeah, I think we will, we're just moments away now. Just a little bit of off-road driving. So basically right around 251 miles. Like I said, I'll put the final number on the screen. 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Ugh, 4.5 hours of driving. That's a lot of driving, but thanks for coming along, guys. And like I said, stay for the end to see the results of that in the charge curve. And until next one, thanks for watching.